Well, it's one of the most contested Republican primaries in recent memory. Yet you wouldn't know it with the short list of televised debates scheduled before the May 17th primary. Just 3 state races being argued on TV, and we're hosting 2 of them. Tomorrow night, the GOP debate for Secretary of State will be featured on KTVB. Last night, we heard from Republican candidates who want to lead Idaho public schools. The trio debated for about an hour, giving Idahoans, well, some insight into the candidates that will be on their Republican ballot. And Joe Paris, part of the panel last night, joins us. So your takeaways from last night's hour-long debate.
Well, we saw a clear difference, I should say, between the candidates. We have one candidate, former state senator Branden Durst, who really framed himself as an outsider in this race. Meanwhile, you have Debbie Critchfield, who's the former president of the State Board of Education. She did have some criticism of the current superintendent, but she's not really pushing an outsider agenda. Finally, in our debate last night, we had current superintendent Sherri Ybarra, and she, throughout the night, defended her record in handling of COVID as the top administrator of Idaho Public Education. Now, a major topic we heard questions on from you at home for weeks, and really we've talked about it a lot here on the 208, critical race theory. Now, before we get into this, to be clear, there is no evidence of system-wide indoctrination of Idaho students. So consider that as we go through this. But this is the candidates, their response to our questions about critical race theory in Idaho.
We know that it's happening in Boise School District. We know that it's happening in the West Ada School District. We know it's happening in the Nampa School District. There are places that it's happening, some places more insidiously than others, but it is happening, and we must stop it once and for all.
I've seen no evidence of a systemic effort to have it in our schools. This is what I do know. I talk to a lot of people who have no idea what it is. They've heard the acronym, and some people aren't even sure what the acronym spells out. And for those folks, they're wondering what's going on. If we can use that to draw more attention to what is being taught in the classroom and engage our parents, that's a good thing.
And I'm looking at the voters tonight saying I do not support CRT. As the mother of an interracial child, Idahoans find that offensive, and so do I. It's ridiculous, but parents are concerned, and what I would say to you as a parent tonight, we're not one of those scary examples in the Hillsdale College Journal report, but I will be the superintendent on your behalf that travels the state and continues to investigate allegations of CRT, and I have yet to see it as your state superintendent.
So a large spectrum of opinions on that topic. And another large topic, state versus local control. And when we were asking candidates about this, we were talking about, did candidates support hyper-local control with rare state intervention, or do they prefer the more traditional system like we see right now?
Since day one, I've been a staunch supporter of local control. That is why you have never seen me mandate masks or close schools across the state of Idaho. That is exactly why you also saw my in-person learning bill get through the legislature, because when schools closed, we knew as educators that was not working. I did not like what I saw, so that was the time to step in. That's a fine example of time to get these buildings open, Madam Superintendent, make sure our kids are back in the classroom.
The Idaho Constitution, as we've already talked about, tells us that we have a public education system to support a Republican form of government. And so when we saw last fall families being forced to mask their children over their own objections, that was a case where we should have gone ultra-local, back to the parents. The State Board of Education should have passed a state board policy to prohibit mask mandates in local school districts. If you're in the West Ada School District, you would have had to stand in line for hours to kiss the ring of the king to be able to get to choose what to do with your child. I think that's wrong.
Being an advocate for local control and supporting that does not mean leaving school districts to themselves. And that is what I have consistently heard over the last 2 years, and goes back to a statement that Mr. Durst made. As president of the board, I was equally frustrated with the inability and the lack of support, the lack of service that was happening in the K-12 arena. And as an appointed volunteer, I was not able to address that. That's why I'm seeking a different position at the same table. And there's a statutory line of what is available for local boards. The superintendent is a partner, is a supporter, and the State Department of Education needs to serve as a service center.
So there you go. We got some pretty clear differences between the candidates last night. Brian, of course, if you're interested, the full debate available right now at ktvb.com. We want everyone to join us tomorrow at 6 o'clock for the Secretary of State debate between the GOP candidates. It should be very interesting, especially considering some of the fireworks we saw on Idaho Public Television last night.
And whether or not election integrity is a thing in Idaho should come up quite a few times tomorrow night. We'll expect that. All right. Thank you very much, Joe.